Now this is what I call a proper build. Sure, it may give you a seizure, and sure it may fry your GPU, but it's fun as hell. It's got absolute insane clear, basically wiping out the entire map with the press of a button. It obliterates bosses. Actually seeing the boss fight is extremely overrated. And of course it's fast as fuck, rocking 200% movement speed with room for more, while being immune to stuns and slows. It's explosive shot on steroids, and it may just be the most insane build I've played yet. And in this one, we'll cover everything you need to get it online. Depending on if you're broke as shit and on a budget, a medium budget, which the version I'm currently playing is, or if you've been successfully swiping your credit card and want to take the build to the next level. Then you'll basically just copy-paste whatever I'm doing here, but get better gear and jewels to triple or quadruple my damage. Simple as that. But first things first, what are the main interactions making the build work? Well, we're going to use some clever but automatic weapon swaps. We already mentioned explosive shot, but this is going to be our main mapping skill. And with main, generally I mean that it's the only skill we'll ever use when mapping. This is going to go right into our weapon set 1, and in this weapon set, we're doing some lovely things. The first one being getting as much movement speed as possible so we can get that 200% speed. And the second being stacking a gazillion fuckloads of AOE. We'll do this via the passive tree and Headhunter, but also by combining our explosive shot with Herald of Ice, where we'll use armor, break Herald chaining for even more AOE. For the second weapon set, we're going to have our grenade set. This is where the visual clarity goes to complete shit. Because for disgusting amounts of damage, we're throwing out explosive grenades onto bosses and blow them up with our explosive shot. And we're going to throw out a lot of explosive grenades. We're getting at the lowest 5 per cast, and we can throw them out 4 times in a row. But we can also get additional ones via mortar grenade. That's surely enough though, right? Nah, because we're going to get even more by using the Mirage Archer. And that's how this lovely eye cancer comes alive. We have like 50 grenades or so, and we blow them all up at once. Despite going hard on movement speed and AOE, this damage allows me to nuke any boss in the game, and that's why my gear still has room for a buttload of improvements. And speaking of gear, let's check it out. But first, gah! No, I did not just seizure, it's the name of another game I've been playing lately. It's a completely new ARPG roguelite created by just one dude and his wife, and I can confirm that I've been having a lot of fun with it. The premise of the game is simple. Select one of 13 playable characters, and you ascend deeper and deeper along the arcadish-looking levels/realms. The deeper you get, the harder the difficulty. You'll fight a different assortment of enemies, and while doing so, collecting loot, upgrading your skills, leveling up, and creating your own kind of build. On top of that, you have a bunch of different challenges you can complete, making it more difficult and rewarding. And if it's too difficult and you die, you unlock permanent rewards and upgrades and try again. So use my link in the description to check the game out. It's currently on Steam for only $7 USD, so if you skip the Burger King just once, you can try out GAR instead. Alright friends, let's check out the gear and start with the defenses. I'm currently playing Evasion and Energy Shield Hybrid due to their lovely synergies. You want as much Energy Shield on your helm as you can muster because we're going to double it and give it to Evasion as well via Subterfuge Mask. When it comes to the body armor, however, you want Hybrid because we're getting double its evasion from Bestial Skin and also some Energy Shield via Spectral Ward in the passive tree. And after that, you just sort out your resistances, get item rarity if you want it, which I recommend you to get as long as you're not playing in a group or running negative rarity farming, splinter farming, or other strats of that sort. I don't have any need for it, so I'm not getting any. Simple as that. Then, we have the main Herald chaining mechanic. If you've seen my previous videos, then you know how this works. We have Pole Circle, allowing us to shatter any enemy that is chilled. To ensure we chill, we grab different types of gain as extra damage multipliers, like here in my weapon, for example. We're then transforming all of it to cold damage, allowing us to chill enemies with ease. And once they're chilled, and we can shatter them, Herald of Ice triggers, which will trigger armor explosion, if and only if you do at least one of these things. You either get damage gained as extra physical damage on your weapon and pair it with Armor Break 3. This is enough to cause the chaining to occur. But you can also stack extra chaos damage and use UOL's Embrace. This works great as well, but it's more expensive. I'm using both because why the hell not? Other than the extra physical damage, you just want a buttload of damage on your weapon. Ideally, you'd grab a max DPS one for set 2 and have something like this in set 1. Whatever you do though, you definitely want a siege crossbow in set 2 for the additional grenades. For the remaining items, we go for Headhunter. Gloves, where we just focus on getting attack speed and fill out with anything useful. On the ring, you want to focus on flat damage modifiers, and if you're farming regular maps or temple, then also a bunch of rarity. The only thing you must have here is Mana Leash, or else you're fucked. And finally, the Amulet. The only important stats here are Spirit and Projectile skills, as this will be a massive bump in damage. If you can't find both of these stats though, then it's not the end of the world. You can just remove Wind Dancer, for example. I'm doing something interesting here though, and that is anointing Blood of Rage. Why the hell am I doing this? Well, that's because it's going to be your main source of rage generation. In my sneakers, I have this cool Soul Core, Guatemala, whatever the fuck it's called. It grants a whopping 25% movement speed when sprinting, on top of the 5% from the rune. The downside, though, it drains your life when it does. But is it really a downside? Nah, man or woman, we just chug a few life flasks, and we not only heal ourselves back up, we also gain rage, which is a multiplicative damage bonus for us. Pretty cool, huh? Yeah. And if you're too lazy to use the tech, then just don't use it. Who gives a shit, really? We're deleting everything anyways. In that case, just anoint something else, like Wild Storm for more damage and easier chill, or any other damage anoint that you can afford. Great job, friends. All geared up. Let's check out the gems and see if we get any wiser. Probably not, but it's worth a shot. First, we have our main skill, Explosive Shot. If you're new to crossbows, then you want to ensure you have your crossbow shot from Weapons Set 1 as your shooting button, because you only want to use this skill in Weapons Set 1, and then you just load it with one of your other buttons. You won't actually reload the skill though, that's just for loading it once, because then we're going to use Ratha's Assault. This grants us attack speed, additional bolts, and it allows us to reload when we dodge roll, which we do a lot when sprinting around the map. But to make the build even more smooth, we also have Arjun's Medal, reloading every time we kill an enemy. Honestly, Ratha's is enough, but this just makes big-ass breaches way more fun as you won't be forced to stop shooting. Then, we have Rakiatas. Pretty much all of our damage is elemental damage, so if we target farm maps with increased elemental resistances, for example, then this support gem more or less doubles our damage. And finally, Embitter, because I want to ensure I always chill enemies for Pole Circle to work, and Multi-Shot, because I want the extra projectiles. Then, our main damage skill on bosses, Explosive Grenades. Here you want to ensure it's set to Weapon Set 2. The Explosive Shot doesn't fucking matter because you're using the crossbow shot, but this one's important, because in Set 2, we have all of our grenade nodes. To boost its damage, we use Multi-Shot for additional projectiles, Rigwold's Ferocity. If you can afford it, if not then use Long Shot, for example, as we're mainly fighting on long range anyways. Deliberation for even more damage, Elemental Armament, as pretty much all damage is elemental, and finally, Rising Tempest. This support gem in particular is pretty nasty because we're combining it with elemental weakness on bosses. This removes enemy resistances, but it's also a lightning, a fire, and a cold skill. So when we drop it down, we're getting the triple damage buff for Rising Tempest. To make the elemental penetration even better, we grab some extra magnitude. Cursed Ground. So we just drop it down on the ground and can't miss it. Focused Curse to trigger it faster. Magnified Area for AoE. And Efficiency to reduce its cost. When it comes to the Wind Dancer and Ghost Dance combo, we use it for both evasion and regenerating our energy shield once hit. And in the Wind Dancer, we just grab the usual crowd control support gems in case we ever get hit. I also have Cannibalism here, but I wouldn't recommend having it on if you don't have spare spirit, so in the planner, it'll likely be removed. And for the Ghost Dance, the only important gem is Compressed Duration for generating charges quicker. I have Diala's here for a tiny bit of extra spirit, just enough to use Cannibalism. But it's not needed at all, so I'll likely remove it as well in the planner. Then, onto some cool skills. We talked about Herald of Ice earlier, so if you skipped that section, then fuck you, because I'm not discussing it again. Instead, we have our Mortar Cannon, where we socket our explosive grenade and boost its damage exactly how we would our regular explosive grenade, but we're also slotting in fire exposure here to boost our other skills. Finally, our Mirage Archer. This is a fantastic skill, especially on bosses, where we'll evade and have it explode our explosive grenades for us. And once all of our explosive grenades are out, we can start exploding his explosive grenades for him for some lovely explosions all over the place. So just make sure to slot in both explosive shot and grenade here, and then boost its damage like we did earlier. Hey, will you look at that? We managed to complete the gems as well. You should be proud of yourself. You don't have the attention span of 3-year-old. Let's head to the passive tree now and check out all of the epic interactions we're rocking there. Firstly, we're using the Pathfinder in all kinds of nasty ways. Starting with Relentless Pursuit, removing slows, which in turn allows us to run all of those chilled ground and temporal chains maps that are absolute fucking aids. And then we have running Assault, so we can permanently sprint without being stunned, and also removing a lot of movement speed penalty when shooting, which will boost even further soon. After that, though, we don't really have any good options, so we go for Path of the Sorceress and Traveler's Wisdom for some extra nodes and damage. I'll probably get the question here, so I'll just answer it right away. Can you play this build as insert random ascendancy here? And the answer is absolutely. Running Deadeye Near doubles your damage, for example. I'm just using the Pathfinder because I want to be as fast as possible. But you can play really any ascendancy as long as you move down the main road. Alright, let's see what you want to grab. If you're playing Pathfinder or Deadeye. Start by moving down, grabbing all damage nodes, where you want to go down here because we want the Pierce. Because with Pierce, Explosive Shot can hit enemies twice, both from the projectile itself and the explosion. Then for weapon set 1, the mapping set, you grab the movement speed. After that, we go down, grab some damage and elemental penetration for set 2, because remember, we don't have any Rakiatas in that weapon set. Next, we find our Against the Darkness jewel. Look for a damage as extra cold damage, and then it doesn't really matter. Ideally, an extra damage modifier, but anything useful will work. And the reason it's here, well, it's because all of these nodes are just fantastic. After that, we go up here, where we want the Pierce and the Surpassing Chance to gain an extra projectile, which is just a complicated way of saying chance to gain an extra projectile. Next we move up, grab damage for weapon set 2 and Subterfuge Mask for weapon set 1, before heading down again to grab some deflection, evasion, and bestial skin, which is why we wanted evasion on our body armor, remember? We also find another jewel here, a From Nothing with Eternal Youth. And where the hell do we find this node? Let's see, shall we? There it is. Using it here, we can get a lot of this lovely energy shield and evasion, but we also have a fantastic area of effect cluster for an additional 40% AOE. Once we've grabbed these nodes, we fuck off all the way to Narnia, where we have these two fantastic clusters. Since we're always going to be moving around, we grab all the damage nodes while moving, along with reduced movement speed penalty and extra projectile chance. Definitely an insane cluster, but this one's decent as well, getting us some damage during flask effects, which you'll keep up if you use the life flask for rage, as we discussed earlier, and elemental penetration for set 2, and a heart of the well diamond, where again, cold damage is the most important. After that, it's time for some additional damage nodes and the differences between the weapon set. You want reshootable ammo only in set 1, whereas repeating explosives is only for set 2. The same goes over here for these clusters. The Gem Enthusiast is for both, but this big-ass AOE cluster is only for set 1, where we want a bunch of AOE when mapping, along with some additional movement speed and attack speed. On the other hand, though, we have this magnificent grenade cluster for extra grenades and cooldown uses, granting us a substantial damage bonus when bossing. Amazing. I'd also like to mention that you really want one life on kill roll somewhere, so either grab it on your rare jewel or in your heart of the well diamond. And with that, my lovely friends, we're done with the passive tree. There's but some gameplay left, where I'm supposed to teach you bunch of brain-dead donkeys how to actually play the build. A difficult task, but I'll manage. When mapping, it's just incredibly easy. The build is more or less just a one-button build. You press explosive shot, and everything should die instantly. You should only need explosive grenade in rare circumstances, like if you run into a mini-boss or your gear is absolute ass, for example. Then in between packs, you can sprint, as you can't get stunned, shoot, and repeat. Whenever you drop down in life, you can also spam a bunch of life flasks to generate your rage. When it comes to bosses, though, the build is a bit more interesting because we have a few things we can do to maximize our damage. The first being, actually use your skills, LOL. You want to drop elemental weakness on top of the boss to remove their resistances and buff your other skills with Rising Tempest. You want to use Mortar Cannon for extra damage, and you want to evade to spawn your Mirage Archer. Ideally, you do all of this before the boss even spawns. Then once you've done all of this, you can start spamming your explosive grenades, shoot a bit of explosive shot once you run out of mana, and repeat. If you're try-harding, then you make sure to sprint around a bit before the fight so you can heal up with your life flask and gain the damage bonus from rage. But that may be too advanced for your dummies, and in that case, you skip it. You should have more than enough to obliterate any boss without it. And with that, we're done with this. Drop a sub, check out Gar in the description, and I'll see you in the next one.